Hello and welcome to a tactical history of Liverpool. When we last left Liverpool, they were sat in 5th place, 6 points behind league leaders Manchester United. As we catch up with them 2 months later, they have cut down that gap to 4 points. However, this isn't necessarily a positive sign. United's title charge has fallen apart over Christmas, failing to win a single match and losing their last 4. That Liverpool was still 4 points behind them shows they obviously weren't much better. After beating Derby, they failed to win any of their next 5 games in the league, losing 3 of them. They were also out of the FA Cup, defeating 2nd Division Oxford United in the 3rd round, only to get dumped out by Leeds in the next round. They did manage to get back to winning ways in the league at the end of January though, beating Crystal Palace 4-1 at Anfield. This left Liverpool languishing in 10th place, now 7 points off first place Manchester City, as they headed to Yorkshire to face Huddersfield Town. Huddersfield had been one of the most successful clubs of the 1920s. Herbert Chapman is best known for his time at Arsenal, where his introduction of the WM formation was revolutionary. However, those developments were in response to a change in the offside law just as Chapman joined Arsenal in 1925. Chapman had already proven himself to be a cut above by that point. He had won the FA Cup in his first full season in charge at Huddersfield in 1922, then led them to league titles in 1924 and 1925, pairing a strong defence with quick counter-attacks and asking his wingers to pass inside rather than cross. Huddersfield would win the league the year after Chapman left, becoming the first club to win it 3 times in a row. However, they would never again reach the same heights. They would finish as runners-up in the league and cup several times throughout the 20s and 30s, but they are still yet to win a trophy since. They dropped into the lower half of the table in the years preceding the Second World War, before being relegated in 1952, spending the entirety of the 60s in the 2nd Division. However, the goals of Liverpool target Frank Worthington saw them promoted in 1970, and would have finished their first season back in the top flight in 15th place. As they're ready to face the Reds today, they were sat in 19th, just 2 points above the relegation spots. Ian Greaves set them up in a 4-4-2, with Jimmy Lawson partnering Worthington up front. Bill Shankly made 3 changes from the side we saw in episode 34. Larry Lloyd had returned from injury to replace Ian Ross in defence, while John Toshak was also fit again, seeing Brian Hall dropped as Kevin Keegan was moved out to the right flank. Liverpool's attack still wasn't firing though, so Shankly kept chopping and changing in a bid to find a working combination. This saw Steve Highway drop to the bench, with Bobby Graham replacing him on the left, while, despite his hat-trick in our last episode, this was Jack Whittam's first game back after getting dropped again following a goalless run. Now unfortunately, just like episode 33, we only have footage from the second half of this match, which means we can't be certain of how either team were playing in the first, or if they had made any adjustments. Newspaper reports did however state that Liverpool had quickly established a firm hold in midfield, and Huddersfield were being limited to breakaways as Liverpool kept pushing forward. So far however, there had not been a great deal to keep the fans warm and cheering. Defences were well in command with Huddersfield's the more overworked. Liverpool had maintained control of the game, but only been able to prize a couple of half chances out of the Huddersfield rearguard so far. This sounds largely consistent with the footage of the game we do have, so it appears we didn't miss much. The match took place on a horrible bog of a pitch. This thankfully isn't a worry in the modern game, but in the 1970s this was a legitimate tactical problem. As Arsenal's Bob McNabb put it, on these mud heaps how could you contemplate knocking it about? Or Leeds' Eddie Gray bluntly stated, you can't play pretty stuff in 3 inches of mud. Keegan talked of pitches where the mud pulls on the boot sole so much you think the force of gravity is doubled. This was a real issue at the time, with many bemoaning the lack of ball players as teams began to take a more pragmatic approach compared to previous decades. Huddersfield dealt with the pitch by playing over the top of the mud, lumping aerial balls forward to the attackers. Liverpool's centre-backs seemed to find these surprisingly difficult to deal with, as Lloyd mishit a bouncing ball straight to the opposition at one point, and Tommy Smith missed a header at another. Huddersfield's strikers didn't seem to gain much from these balls though. It was instead Steve Smith who benefited, pushing up behind the strikers to support them. Huddersfield looked most dangerous when they played the ball down the right to Dick Krzyzewicki however, as the winger had the beating of Alec Lindsay, getting in behind the fullback to cross. Their best moment came when these 2 elements combined. Krzyzewicki dribbled past Lindsay to cross for Smith attacking the box, whose overhit kick required an equally spectacular save from Ray Clements to deny Huddersfield the lead. Meanwhile, Liverpool were generally attempting to pass the ball along the ground despite the state of the pitch. Both Chris Lawler and Smith ventured into the Huddersfield half. However, Liverpool seemed to largely focus on the flanks, where there were still some patches of grass compared to the middle. On the left, Bobby Graham did appear to threaten running at his fullback several times, yet the majority of Liverpool's play seemed to come from the right flank. Keegan did sometimes try to rush in behind to hit the byline and cross, however he was also frequently coming into the middle. Instead, the likes of Ian Callaghan and John Toshak were pulling out to the flank to get on the ball and supply their teammates. Huddersfield goalkeeper David Lawson was doing a good job of smothering any loose balls though. Liverpool would eventually get their opener in the 73rd minute. A long ball forward was dealt with poorly by the Huddersfield defenders, seeing Whittam release Keegan down the right. His cross was repelled, but again the ball fell to Whittam. His first shot was blocked, but his second wasn't, deflecting in off the post to give the Reds the lead. Our footage ends there, although apparently the game continued on in much the same way, as As the match report states, Liverpool however were not defending their lead, instead they were looking for the goal that would almost certainly clinch the game. Liverpool didn't get that goal, but they did secure the 2 points, seeing them move up to 8th, 6 points off leaders Manchester City. It was an important victory considering recent results, yet it wasn't a particularly convincing one, against a poor Huddersfield side that would end the season relegated, finishing in last place. Liverpool's attack just wasn't clicking, and none of Shankly's changes seemed to stick. Although we won't have to wait long to see him again, this is the last time we'll see Bobby Graham in a red shirt in this series. The Scot joined Liverpool as a 15-year-old, working his way up through the reserves to join the first team, before bursting onto the scene with a hat-trick on his league debut. However, he would struggle to live up to this spectacular start, making only the odd appearance here and there over the coming seasons. It took Ian St John being moved back into midfield for Graham to get consistent playing time, and in the 69-70 season he would play in all 42 league matches. It began the next season as a starter too, however a broken ankle in October curtailed his progress once again, never again managing to hold down a starting spot. Graham was a solid and versatile attacker, able to play anywhere across the front line, but he didn't possess the explosiveness of Highway or Keegan. Now 27, he needed to be starting, and so moved on to Coventry City, but he struggled to get first team minutes there too. He was soon back on Merseyside, loaned to Tranmere Rovers where former teammate Ron Yates was manager. In the end he returned to his hometown, joining Motherwell. This saw him once again playing under one of his former teammates, and St John was manager, and Graham formed a lethal strike partnership with a young Willie Pettigrew. He would see out his career at Hamilton Academical, managing over 100 appearances and 42 goals for the club before calling it a day in 1981. On his time at Liverpool, Graham would say, "Because of the money in the game these days, people often ask me if I wish I was playing now. But my reply is always the same. No, I have no regrets. I travelled all over the world with Liverpool and played alongside some great players. I enjoyed every minute of it." If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to support the channel. This will help show my work to more people and ensure that you see future videos. You can also help me out by sharing this video with people you think would like it. You can keep up with what I'm working on by following on social media, links are in the description, but most importantly by supporting Holding Midfield on Patreon. Without financial support, these videos will simply cease to exist, as they just require too much time and effort. So if you enjoy these videos and would like to see more of them, please consider helping me out financially, and in return you'll get access to exclusive content, as well as early access to those that appear on YouTube. Thanks for watching.